Other Euro settlements were at Fort Langley, at Nanaimo, where there were coal interests, and at the northern tip of Vancouver Island at Fort Rupert. And in the 1850s, Douglas signed the only set of treaties with Aboriginal people from that point through to the modern era, essentially clearing the way for further settlement and establishing a title to land. Everything changed when news began to leak out about gold strikes. The first reports were in 1850 that Richard Blanchard had heard that there was gold on Big Charlotte Islands. And in 1852, a few miners from California headed north to see what kind of resources were available. They were not welcome. Douglas was given administrative authority over the Charlottes in 1852, and by 1856 he was hearing about gold strikes on the mainland. By the end of 1857, the news was circulating about gold, and on December 29, 1857, Douglas proclaimed the authority of the Crown over the mainland gold deposits on the Fraser and Thompson rivers, essentially trying to protect HBC interests. That was not possible to sustain when, by the spring of 1858, newspapers in California, Oregon, and Washington Territory were all discussing the gold strikes. Boats started to head north from San Francisco, and in fact, Edward Bridges' diary talks about one Sunday, everybody got out of church to find 450 miners had arrived in a single batch on board the side wheeler, the Commodore. That was more people than had been living. It would be like suddenly your town doubles in population in one day. That led to a massive influx of miners, first of all from California and then from the rest of the world. And the gold rush created a new economy in the colonies. Victoria suddenly became cosmopolitan. It also was becoming rapidly Americanized. That worried the Colonial Office. And in mid-1858, the British government acted in the House of Commons to create the mainland colony to try and protect against American encroachment. August 2nd, 1858, Douglas was named governor, but they made him resign from also being the Hudson's Bay Company chief factor. So now he was only wearing, well, he was still wearing two hats. It's just they were two different hats, governor of Vancouver Island and governor of the mainland. So the commission appointing him as governor. Victoria rapidly expanded. There was a land boom. If you wanted to flip property, you could make a fortune. If you moved north from San Francisco with goods, you could find that you were making a very tiny profit. Goods were double the cost of what they'd be charged in London and 10 times higher than Victoria in the gold fields. So you could actually make money, not usually through gold, but through moving goods up from San Francisco. The British government also moved to ensure some sort of stability by appointing a bishop for the area who was meant to ensure loyalty to Britain through the establishment of the Church of England. Anecdote, church on the top right was an iron church sent out as a kind of prefab unit from England by ship. It was a model they had used in Australia. Nobody was thinking about the fact there was a lot of timber available locally, and apparently people were quite unhappy on a Sunday whenever it rained, and all you would hear was the endless clatter on the iron roof. The Royal Navy had its base at Esquimalt and provided much of the support structures initially for policing and order, supplemented by a small contingent of the Royal Marines stationed at San Juan Island, and a volunteer militia made up of African Americans who had moved north from California at Douglas's invitation at a time when there was increasing concern about the extension of slavery into California. When Colonel Richard Clement Moody was sent out from Britain to establish official or to maintain, keep order, provide military protection, survey for new towns, the policy of setting in the infrastructure for this new colony, the new colonies were in place. The Royal Engineers laid out a model town here at New Westminster on a grid system. This is taken from the City of New Westminster archives, with government offices, gardens, a pleasure ground. You can tell exactly what they have in mind. Arthur Terrace, Princess Street, Merchant Square, Douglas Street, Columbia running along the waterfront, and a large garden in the center. It was, however, a fairly small affair initially. And just around the corner, Holy Trinity Cathedral, John Sheepshanks, the young priest sent out to minister to the community, talks about being able to stretch his arms out in his residence and touch either wall while he was lying in his bunk at night. He's a graduate of Cambridge. He brought his books with him. He lasted a couple of years on a private income and used to go around the gold mines saying, I brought my books with me for a library, not a church. You want to give money for the library, not a church. So, authority also came in the position of Matthew Bailey Begbie as judge. His father had been a colonel in the Royal Engineers. He, like Sheepshanks, had been educated at Cambridge. He acted as a circuit judge, riding 6 months of the year to hear cases out in the field, dressed in the traditional judicial garb of a British judge, including the wig and, when he had to proclaim sentence of death, a black cap. And in fact, this was quite, in one sense, an amazing feat given the difficulty of travel and the roughness of the community. You could start in Fort Langley, Derby, where there was a restaurant, a billiard parlor, a Chinese restaurant. You could get your washing done, you could have coffee, you could go to Curting and Pettibones, you could find ways to lose your money even before you had set out for the goldfields. Yale, the head of navigation at the Fraser River, and from that it was a rough journey overland, and men who thought that they were going to go and make money in the goldfields frequently found that they wished that they had stayed home in Victoria. When they got, as the gold moved further and further north into the Cariboo and the conditions grew more and more difficult, you needed a fair investment of capital for actually extracting gold, and the environmental degradation as the sides of hills were logged off to provide flumes to run the water wheels to help pump deep water, or the water out of deep mines, meant that if you were living in Williams Creek or Cameron Town or Barkerville, there was a good chance that periodically there would be a flash flood that would wash down the side of the hill and take out a good part of the community. To try and facilitate transportation, a Cariboo Dragon Road was built using the labor of unemployed miners, and it finished just in time for the gold to run out in Barkerville, creating a huge public debt that they couldn't manage to figure out how to clear. New Westminster continued to be a small seat of government for the mainland colony, with government offices, services, a paddle wheeler's connection to Victoria, and north of the east of the downtown centre today, Sapperton grew up as the camp for the Royal Engineers, who were, by all accounts, a fairly mixed lot themselves. Top image is the Royal Engineers camp. Bottom image is the New Westminster cricket team in 1865. They were volunteer rifle corps, hospital, and a church which still exists, built by the Royal Engineers. There were complaints that Douglas ran the colonies pretty much like he had run the fort. using favoritism from one perspective, nepotism, from another perspective, running the colonies very sensibly by picking the people that he could trust, who he knew, who were related to him. Opposition arose from the newspaper editors in Victoria and New Westminster, who claimed that, in fact, Douglas was running what they called the Family Company Compact, playing on the idea of the Family Compact of Upper Canada, that if you weren't a Hudson's Bay Company employee, a former employee, or one of Douglas's relatives, you weren't getting a job. There was some truth to that. The colonies were in serious debt, and in 1863, when he was persuaded to retire, he was made Knight Commander of the Bath by Queen Victoria and became Sir James Douglas. Those are the two chaps who fought the battle for extending the responsibility or responsible government. Now, what, to finish up, of the Douglas family social world? James and Amelia had 13 children. 6 of them survived to adulthood. There was a whole series of babies who died at birth, shortly after birth, in the first 2 years of their life. Amelia was pretty much continuously pregnant between 1829 and 1854. People said, oh, she was shy about being seen in public. Oh, her English wasn't very good. Oh, she was very retiring. Douglas himself called her his shy wood violet. One questions whether, in fact, there was also the issue of being pretty much continuously pregnant, nursing, and taking care of small children.